The announcement of a Super Mario 3D World gameplay style in Super Mario Maker 2 opens up more possibilities for other styles to come into the game from Mario games that aren't based in the 2D environment. And probably the most classic 3D Mario game style that I could go over in a video like this is Super Mario 64. Hence why I'm talking about it today. I already made a video like this talking about the possibility of an Odyssey theme in Mario Maker 2, and I thought that one would make sense because it's a more recent title, but if Nintendo really wants to call back to something more classic that a lot of fans are going to recognize, Mario 64 is definitely the way to go. In this video, I'm going to be going over the general conversion process from Mario 64 into Mario Maker 2 and how I think the style will operate once it's in the game. I'm also going to go over some of the specific enemies and abilities that Mario is able to use in Mario 64 that I would love to see in Mario Maker 2. But I think the most important thing out of all of this that I'm going to be talking about today is how likely do I think it is that we're going to be seeing a Mario 64 theme in this game. After all, Super Mario 3D World is probably the closest 3D Mario game to the style of the 2D titles, along with Super Mario 3D Land. So it makes sense why that was the 3D Mario game that was chosen to be implemented into Mario Maker 2. It's the simplest transition between styles. But does that really mean that Mario 64 doesn't have a chance to be included? That's what I'm going to be going over today. I'm going to start off this video by talking about the general aesthetics of Mario 64 and why I believe that they would be very interesting to see in Mario Maker 2. One gripe that I have with the 3D World theme is that the art style doesn't look too different compared to the new Super Mario Bros. Style. It does look slightly different, but it's nowhere near the drastic amount of change as there is between all of the other styles in Mario Maker 2. If you look at the Super Mario Bros. 3 and the Super Mario World art styles, they're incredibly different. And this isn't really something that I see with the new Super Mario Bros. And 3D World styles. And aesthetic variety is one of the main reasons why people switch between level themes in the first place. Obviously, the gameplay variety is the main reason, but aesthetics is a very important one as well. And it's because of this reasoning why I believe that the Mario 64 theme is of utmost importance, because it's one of the most iconic Mario art styles out there. Mario 64 gets fan games and hacks based off of it all the time, and one of the main reasons is obviously it's one of the most classic Mario games and has a classic gameplay style, but also the art style is very iconic and it's very recognizable by fans immediately. When Nintendo implemented a Mario 64 costume into Super Mario Odyssey, they kept the original polygonal art style of the character, and it's because lots of fans really appreciated it. Some fans of the original Mario 64 hate the DS version because they changed this classic art style which they came to love. So it'd be nice to see this art style converted over into Mario Maker. And along with the general art style of Mario and the environments from Mario 64, comes changes to all of the existing enemies within the game. We'll get to see the Koopa Troopa designed in the same way as Koopa the Quick was, and so on. It would be an incredible sight to see. And just now I was kind of alluding to it, so I might as well get into it. The level themes within Mario 64 and the designs of them. How do I think they will be converted into Super Mario Maker 2? After all, each of the level themes that you switch between in Mario Maker are based on specific parameters. There's the plains theme, the cave theme, and so on. How do I think they'll all be converted into a potential Mario 64 art style? Well, fortunately, for most of the theme ideas present in Mario Maker, and even including the new ones introduced for Mario Maker 2, there is some sort of similar style included in Mario 64. Take the cave theme. It could easily be transformed into Hazy Maze Cave from Mario 64. What about the ghost house / mansion theme? Well, there's one of the most famous ghost houses from within the entire Mario series included in Mario 64, being Big Boo's Haunt. The airship theme in Mario Maker, that could easily be transformed into the Rainbow Cruise theme, with the ship being based off of the ship that's included within the level. You see what I mean here? It's very easy to transition most of these level themes over. Even some of the ones that don't match up exactly do have a course within Mario 64 that is slightly similar to it at least. But that's enough about how the level themes could be changed. What about how some of the existing objects within Mario Maker could be changed? I'll provide a couple of examples examples because I can't go over all of them in this video. There's going to have to be lots of objects that are going to have to be changed in order to accommodate this style. But one that I could definitely see is the snake block that is new for Mario Maker 2 from the new Super Mario Bros. Games being changed into the carpet from Rainbow Cruise. The carpets within this course are placed along a set path, so it would make sense for the item that has you draw a set path for it to go to change into this one. There could be other objects that the snake block is changed into. This is just an idea. The blaster that fires out cannonballs within Mario Maker 2 could be changed in order to bring back the mechanic of hopping into the cannon and shooting out of it from within Mario 64. This would be an interesting method of traveling further throughout levels much faster. Moving on to an object that wouldn't really be changed from an existing one, but would just be cool to see added in anyways, the checkered rotating platforms that are seen prominently within the Bowser and the Sky level. It does provide an interesting platforming mechanic to get around, and I think it would be very cool to see it in a 2D environment. It can be recreated with some of the existing objects within Mario Maker, but Mario Maker 2 seems to be providing more enemies that already have seemed to be anyway, so I don't think this is an issue. What about some of the enemies? Some of my favorite ones within Mario 64 that I'd love to see brought over include the Chuckyas, another enemy included prominently in the Bowser and the Sky level. The Womps are enemies that I love that have actually been included in 2D Mario games before, being New Super Mario Bros. DS and New Super Mario Bros. 2, so it's not that far-fetched to see them included in a 2D style. Obviously, they're more suited to a 3D environment, but because of how prominent they were in the Womps Fortress level in Mario 64, I think it makes sense to include them here. The Unagi is another famous enemy from this game, included in the Jolly Roger Bay level, and it would be fun to see it included in the water style here. And an enemy that I think would be interesting to include that is already included in another style that would just have to be converted over is the Bully, a very famous enemy from the Lethal Lava Land level in Mario 64, and it would be nice to see it included in the style once again. If Mario 64 is a style that's included, I'll have no doubt that they allow you to convert this enemy that's included in the 3D World style back into it, because it was so famously included in this game as its first appearance. Moving on from enemies to power-ups, I have to wonder, what are they gonna do about this? In the Odyssey video, I mentioned that they would probably just have to scrap the power-up section entirely in favor of Cappy. But in Mario 64, they actually do have power-ups. They're just implemented slightly differently to how the power-ups are implemented in 2D Mario games. For example, you only get some of the power-ups for a limited period of time. How are you going to control that within a 2D Mario setting? Some power-ups were implemented into Mario 64 DS for the first time and weren't included in the original Mario 64. Would you include some of those power-ups as well? It seems that multiplayer is going to be in Super Mario Maker 2, and because in Mario 64 DS they gave some of Mario's power-ups from the original to the other characters that were included, does this mean that there will be exclusivity for power-ups for which character you choose to play as for this theme? For example, if I'm designing a level, do I force you to play as Luigi so that you'll be able to use the invisibility power-up? Or will all characters be able to use all the types of power-ups? I think that's the most likely option, considering that Mario was able to use most of those power-ups within the original game anyway. But this is an interesting issue that Nintendo would have to work around here, considering the large amount of source material and relating it to how it was implemented in the original game, and making sure that this adaptation is faithful to the original. But I think that's enough talk about how the style will generally be converted into Mario Maker 2. Now I want to talk about how likely I think this is. I already alluded to near the beginning of the video that I think that 3D World will be the only 3D Mario style included in Mario Maker 2, because I think it's the closest to the 2D Mario game style. It was a heavy criticism of 3D World from some fans that it was so close in the style to a 2D Mario game and not close enough in the style to the sandbox style Mario titles. That's what we got in Mario 64 and in Mario Odyssey and in many other 3D Mario games, which is why I find it unlikely that they may add any of the others. However, Mario 64 is the most iconic 3D Mario game. It has the biggest legacy out of any of the 3D Mario games, bar none, and Nintendo, as I mentioned throughout this video, loves to reference it throughout new Mario games like the Mario theme within Odyssey from 64. There are so many iconic characters and levels created from within the original Mario 64, and to bring that back and give everybody that rush of nostalgia, which is something that would be greatly appreciated within Mario Maker 2, would be a dream from fans. If they were only going to add one more 3D Mario style within Mario Maker 2, I think it would be Mario 64. Odyssey is a close second in my opinion, but just because of how iconic this game is to the history of Nintendo, I can't see them overlooking it and only including Odyssey, but not this game. Every 3D Mario game owes something to the original Mario 64, and without it, 3D Mario would not have evolved in the way that it has throughout the years. That's my opinion on how likely I think it is. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. If you want to see the video I made speculating about a possible Odyssey theme in Mario Maker 2, I have a link for that on the screen right now. And with that all being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.